Could you just give us an overview of the present state of water in Davao region?
Well, in Davao region, I don't know if you're aware that we have two major river basins. In Mindanao, we have eight river basins, sorry. But in Davao region, we have two. Davao River Basin and the Tagum-Libugano River Basin. Right now, we have already crafted the development plans for these two river basins. And hopefully before the end of the year, this can be finalized as basis for development interventions in these two river basins. And what is important is that we have enough scientific basis and information for the different programs and projects that should be implemented to address the different development concerns in these two river basins. But the status is that, some studies have shown that water from these two river basins are contaminated with heavy metals for one. This we attribute to economic activities in and around the area. For Davao City, for the Davao River Basin, another issue is contamination with pesticides.
Okay.
Again, another study showed that some portions of the river are already contaminated with pesticides, and some of these pesticides are what we call persistent, meaning that they can exist or occur in the bodies of water for many years or even decades, because they are persistent. They are not easily degraded.
These are the non-biodegradable.
Yes.
Some sort of parang ganun yung
Because these are synthetic chemicals, and then therefore they can exist in the environment for a long time. So even if the economic activities had ceased, the pesticides, the contaminants are still there.
Okay.
Will remain.
When you say, in particular, when a layman hear this, ang pumapasok sa utak is, it's because of mining, it's because of aerial spraying before. Are these still the party to be blamed for this?
This still has to be validated whether the heavy metals come from mining or from other economic activities or human activities. But of course, pesticides primarily comes from agricultural activities. So, but as I've said, we need to validate exactly where the hazards come in, the entry points for these hazards, entry points into the water system. So that study has not been done yet.
So once you validate that, what's next?
Well, there has to be interventions, control mechanisms that will prevent the entry of these contaminants into the water system. So once we know where the entry points are, particularly the entry points into the aquifers, because Davao River, the Davao City, is highly dependent on groundwater.
That's true.
I'm sure you're aware of that we abstract water from underground, from our aquifers, and then therefore we need to know where these hazards enter into the aquifer. But the studies have shown only contamination in surface water. We have not done yet a study on contaminants in the groundwater. So maybe that will take time.
Yes.
That will take time for the contaminants to percolate into the underground.
How long?
Well, it depends.
Or how soon will there be action really now?
Okay. How long? Well, we need, as I've said, we need a good evidence that, in fact, the economic activities result to contamination. So further studies still has to be done on this before we can come up with perhaps policies or programs that will address the problems.
Pero pending the result of the investigation na ginagawa nyo, ano yung ano yung may bibigay nyo yung suggestion for the public or for the LGUs to do now para hindi na lumala pa yung situation which you guys are fearing na mangyayari?
Well, ang activities ngayon ng Help Davao, the organizer of the international forum, is basically advocacy, no? Policy advocacy, policy development, no? And information dissemination, putting across to decision makers, policy makers, the various issues plaguing plaguing the region, the various problems that need to be addressed. For your information, I think the Help Davao network was quite instrumental in providing the needed technical information, scientific information to the local government unit pertaining to the flooding that occurred in Davao City, the Matina-Pangi River. We did some analysis of that with the help of UNESCO, and we requested for an audience with the City Council and to disseminate the information that we have gleaned from our studies.
Okay. Talking about Davao water quality, so do we still because it's been years now that we've been bragging about the quality of water, the potable water we have, that it is supposed to be one of the best in the world. Is this still true?
Generally, it's still true, especially for Davao City. The water that we have in Davao City. So far, the results of analysis from the Davao City Water District show that it's still of very good quality. No?
How good? Pag narinig ng tao, when you compare it with others?
When we say good, it means that it's compliant with the Philippine National Standards for Drinking Water of 2007. So we're referring to both microbiological and chemical standards. So it's still compliant. And as I've said, these are mainly from groundwater, from underground. So we don't know in 5 or 10 years whether this would change, especially with salt intrusion because of the depletion of the aquifers, which may result in the coming in of salt water from the coastal areas, particularly from the coastal areas. Kasi pag logically, no, if you look at it, when you remove something from space, remove something, it becomes empty, and you actually encourage the entry of something else into that space. So ganun yung prinsipyo na when you abstract too much of our groundwater, water from the coast may come in, from the sea may come in. So that's a possibility so we need to explore other sources. In other countries like the Netherlands, they reserve their groundwater for later use. No? What they use are surface water from the rivers, from their streams. No? Even though how far it is from the users. No? So they convey the water from kilometers away to the major cities in the Netherlands. In fact, the users, the water serving Rotterdam, Amsterdam comes from a river kilometers away. I think from the Maas River. from Maastricht,
Mhm.
near the border to Germany.
Okay.
So that's how they do things. They use first the surface water and then they reserve
Which
the
is
groundwater.
opposite sa
Which is
nangyayari
opposite
sa
here,
atin.
yeah.
But
I'm happy that hopefully in the next few years we will develop a system for surface water abstraction for drinking water purposes. If I'm not mistaken,
you,
there
you
already
develop a what, sir?
a system for the use of river water for drinking water purposes.
Bakit wala pa tayo ngayon? No?
Well, we have one source in the Philippine Eagle Center.
Oh.
I don't know if you're aware of that. That we have a sand filter there.
Okay.
There's a small dam. So that's basically runoff rainwater, and then they filter it through the filter beds, sand filter beds, and that is provided to that area around. Is it Malagos?
Malagos.
So yun ang pinakamalaking surface water natin sa ngayon. All the rest are
That
groundwater.
could service how many
Barangays.
households?
Well, medyo malaki, but only around the area of Malagos. All the
Okay.
rest, like in downtown Davao City, we're all getting our water from underground.
But sir, gaano ba kabilis natin mag-consume, gaano ba tayo kabilis mag-consume ng water at gaano naman kahina mag-replenish underground?
Well, unfortunately, that is something we have not studied yet. No?
Okay.
We have
But
not studied
even
yet.
outside the Philippines, they have not done studies regarding that.
If you have witnessed the presentation of our speaker from Malaysia, they are doing that. He showed a chart of how much water they're using, how much water is produced or generated from rain, from groundwater. So they have the study. But unfortunately for Davao City, we don't have that. What we call is water balance. So that's what we're planning for Help Davao. We want to commission most probably the University of the Philippines Engineering or Hydrology Center to do the mass or water balance for Davao City. So we would know exactly how much water we have at a given time and how much water we consume at a given time para malaman natin kung kulang ba or sobra yung tubig.
Pero sir, do you think the good quality of water we have is simply because sa ground tayo kumukuha, hindi sa surface?
Yes.
Do you think dahil doon?
Yes, because
Kasi filtered
generally groundwater is clean. In fact, we conducted a study, an isotopic study with the Davao City Water District on the recharge areas for the groundwater of Davao City, and we knew for a fact that our water, the water that is being used, was deposited 75 years ago.
Yes.
So I don't know if you've heard of that. So it takes time. It takes time to to replenish, to recharge the aquifers.
So parang 75 years din bago mag-recharge.
Well, not exactly, but kasi different ang depths ng tubig natin eh. But some areas siguro ganun kaluma na yung mga tubig.
Aside from developing a river system, yung sabi mo, ano pang pwedeng gawin ng tao to really conserve water?
I'm very happy that Davao City has a rainwater harvesting ordinance.
Yes.
So I think that's a good initiative. The only but crucial there is of course implementation. How you can encourage households to collect rainwater for various purposes, no? Kasi sa ngayon we're using even potable water even for toilet, use, for watering the plants, even for washing our vehicles. So it's a wasteful practice. I would call it very